Welcome to Art Ed Radio, the podcast for art teachers. This show is produced by the Art of Education, and I'm your host, Tim Bogatz. Now, I don't know about you, but I have always been fascinated by the art of blowing glass. Now, if you've tried it before, you know what an incredible skill it is. The time, talent, patience, and training that goes into making even a single piece is amazing. Now, the reason I bring this up is that I've also been fascinated with the series Blown Away on Netflix since it was released a few weeks ago. It is, a competition/reality show that features about a dozen glass artists, at least at the beginning, and each episode they are making a different piece. And, somebody gets eliminated, and we have these great critiques, great judging, just like, Project Runway or your favorite cooking show would be. And it's just spectacular. It popped up on my Netflix a couple weeks ago, and I watched the entire series in like 2 days. And then I watched it again because it is just amazing visually. The camera bringing you into the hot shop, seeing what the artists are doing and what they're creating. And I guess just being able to witness the whole art making process is a really, really cool experience. So obviously it's right in the wheelhouse for so many art teachers, and it's been so popular. Anyway, anything that gets more people talking about art, looking at art, appreciating art is doing really well in my book. And to further that idea, I want to bring in my guest, who was one of the stars of Blown Away, Momo Schafer. Now, Momo is an incredible glass artist who creates a variety of different types of sculptures. I'm partial to her figurative work, but you can see all of her versatility and everything that she can do throughout the course of the competition on Blown Away. So she's here to talk about her work, about blowing glass in general, and of course, give us a few stories about what it was like to be part of Blown Away. I am so excited that she was willing to give me some time, and I'm really excited to talk to her, so let me bring her on right now. All right, and Momo Schafer is joining me now. Momo, thank you so much. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. I'm really excited to talk to you about, just everything related to glass blowing, but especially the show, of course. But before we get into that, can you just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you grew up, where you went to school, how you first got into making art?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Boston and then raised just outside of the city in Natick, Massachusetts. I was always doodling and drawing and, typical artist, like always creating. And I was lucky enough to go to a public school where ceramics was offered.
Mm-hmm.
So I had ceramics experience for at least 5 years. And then I guess my first encounter with touching hot glass was in Japan, in Yamanashi. It was like basically a little bead making workshop, a quick little demo, and I got to make a couple beads. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind. And then eventually, once I got to high school, and I was thinking more about what colleges to go to, or if college was even an option, in my experience in public school, it wasn't told to me that like being an artist was a viable future or anything like that. So, but through my own research, I was like, there's got to be a material out there that I'm interested in that like would be worth going to school for. And then I saw that some schools offered glass, and that's what caught my attention, because the more research I did, the more it revealed that basically it's a lifelong challenge. It's a balance between art, dance, meditation. There's a lot of science to it. And so that's what drew me into going to school. And I was lucky enough that Mass Art, the first and only public art school, is in my state. And so I got in-state tuition to go there, among some scholarships. And through that, I also got more scholarships, like full scholarships to Urban Glass in Brooklyn, took a couple classes there. And then towards the end of my college career, I got another full scholarship to Pilchuck, which is like a really big glass school in Seattle. And then after
Hmm.
graduating, I got to continue that exploration through another scholarship at Penland School of Crafts. It's a school in North Carolina. It's they offer ceramics, painting, metals, like anything you could think of. So yeah, so it's kind of been like my educational journey.
Yeah, that's really cool. So if I can ask you, though, like, what was your first experience with blowing glass? Like, you talked about being in Japan and doing the bead making, but like when you got to mass art and like started taking these classes, like, what was that like for you? Like, what really drew you into it? What made you want to kind of continue with that exploration and that
Right.
process?
So my first encounter with actually being able to work in a hot shop was during my sophomore year, and because that's when we were allowed to pick our major. So I first walk in, I take a gather, and I
Hmm.
just knew immediately, like, this is what I've been wanting to do. Like, it's
Yes.
just like this glowing red fire that I just get to like mold and manipulate and caress into a different shape. And at that point, I was pretty heavily
Hmm.
practicing lucid dreaming. And so, even after like our studio classes were like 5 hours, so there'd be like a demo, and then we get a little bit of practice, splitting the time with everybody in the class. You'd get your own like 3 hours or so to like practice with you and your assistant. And then I would go home and I'd dream about it and practice like different simulations. And and I could tell that I was kind of progressing a little faster than maybe some of my classmates. And so, even my professor was telling me like, yep, this is definitely your thing. And I was like, something, having never
Yeah.
tried it and then just kind of jumping into college with the assumption that this was going to be my major. I'm glad that it really worked out. And yeah, it's just been like it's kind of like an addiction at this point. It's just like I can't stop, like I can't let it go. I just want to, yeah,
Nice.
just anytime I can be in the hot shop is really my little paradise.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now, let me ask you, I guess, what are you working on right now? You had mentioned, last time we talked, you had just finished up your time at Penland. But can you tell us about maybe some of the techniques or styles that you're interested in exploring right now? What you're creating? What kind of topics you're addressing with your work these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just finished a 2 year long residency, and towards the end of that residency, I realized that I was doing a lot of torching at the bench and sculpting a lot of details.
Hmm.
And I realized I could do those details outside of the hot shop actually. As much as I love being in the hot shop, I'm always asking myself if that's like the best way to accomplish like executing my ideas. And so I realized that flame working might be my next avenue. And so that was the class that I took over at Penland. It was under Carmen Lazar, who does surrealist figurative sculptures, which is exactly what I do. And
Yeah.
so it was just perfect lineup to be able to segue into getting more miniatures. I can get an entire figure, but just a small scale, and so there's so much more I can accomplish in there. So I'm falling in love with the new process.
Very nice. Well, that's the best part of being an artist, right? Always
Yeah,
exploring, always
absolutely.
finding new things. So,
Hmm.
now let me ask you about the show. Like, how did you get involved with Blown Away? Like, were you invited? Was there an application process? Was there something else?
Hmm.
Like, what made you want to do that? What made you want to be part of the show?
Yeah, so there was an application process. I think most people in the glass community got emails about it, and so the buzz was already out. I mean, it was a joke amongst glass artists, like, man, like there's so much dramatic stuff in glass studios. Like,
Yes.
there should be a reality show about this, and and so finally, when the opportunity hit, everybody was like excited, but also apprehensive. Like, oh, wait a minute, but like, what would that actually be
Right.
like? Like that, like it's one thing for to have it in conversation, but then like, there could be some consequences, like depending on how it portrays the process, if it's not portrayed accurately, like, just we would really become the face of glass because not a lot of people have had the opportunity to see it in person or see it in depth
Hmm.
and like have really explained to them. And so yeah, I think a lot of people applied. Some people maybe got cold feet, but I just figured with my limited 5 years of experience, that's basically baby steps in glass
Mm-hmm.
years. So I wasn't really considering it at first, but then it wasn't just the emails that I got. I actually was contacted through Instagram by the casting director. And so that's when I was like, oh, like this isn't just like an automated e-blast or something like that. Like
Yeah.
this isn't just spam. Like they were actually trying to reach out to me. And so, yeah, I chatted with the casting director just to make sure. I was like, hey, like this isn't gonna be like who can blow the biggest bubble or something, right? Like this is like, I'm an artist first and foremost, so I just want to make sure that like, I'm gonna be able to showcase what I do and what I'm capable of. And she was like, I assure you that it is not going to be like a muscle contest or something
Right.
like that. Because, it also is like a very male dominated field. So I was like, do I really want to jump in as like the one like skinny little girl or something? And but it also was affiliated with the Corning Museum of Glass, which is an
Mm-hmm.
extremely prestigious art and science museum. So that also gave me some reassurance that there had to be some credibility there.
Yeah, that's really cool. So now, I guess, now that the show is released, now that it is so popular, I guess the question is like, what do you hope people take away from the show? Like, do you want to pique the audience's curiosity about glass blowing? Do you want to, get your art in front of a wider audience? Do you want people to learn more about the art form? Like, what do you hope people take away from the show?
So I just kind of approached it as like an opportunity to show my excitement and love and passion for the material. And that maybe that would ignite other people's interest in just learning more, appreciating, maybe even getting into the field. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
was during the time when I was applying, I was also thinking a lot about how representation in different media was also important to me, and so just going on the show just to show my face, to show that like people like me can also blow glass. It doesn't have to be like a big muscular like cis male. It can be anybody. So that was important to me. In terms of like getting my art out there, like I know that I'm in such a beginning point of my art that it'll change a lot in the next 5 years probably. So it was more just getting me, myself, my personality out there more than anything.
Okay, that's really cool. No, I think that yeah, those are all very valid reasons. I think that's yeah, some good thoughts on kind of where we're coming from with them. Now, I have to admit I've watched all of the episodes twice now, so I have a lot of questions
Yeah.
about kind of what it was like on the show. So
Oh,
if
I'm
you
so
don't
glad.
mind, I have a few things I want to dive into, sort of behind the scenes looks. So first off, you have all 10 contestants in this giant hot shop, plus all of the assistants, plus I assume this giant casting, not casting group, but director and all of the
The
camera
camera
people, all the
crew,
tech work.
yeah.
Yeah. So like, how crazy is that to have all those people together? And also like, I've been in a few glass studios, that are incredibly hot just with like a couple of people working in them. So what is it like to, have all those people, and how hot is it in that studio?
Oh, it was crazy. I mean, like, all of the glass artists, we're looking at each other like, oh boy, like 10 holes, two furnaces, and like almost 30 people running around, plus all the annealers, like the ovens where you put all the glass away. And
Mm-hmm.
we knew it was going to be brutal. But it was interesting because no matter how much we tried to insist that, like, we maybe get some open doors or windows and stuff, like,
Yeah.
it was just hard to explain like how hot it was going to be because it's like an inconceivable amount of hot, right? It's beyond like what your
Right.
senses can understand. And the only reference that I think that like the director and the crew had was like a cooking show. And like cooking is a very different temperature than glass blowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might have an oven that's like 400 degrees if you're baking something, but in glass it's like above 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. So
Yeah.
very different scales. So I think, yeah, there was a learning curve there, but we figured it out. We
Yeah,
figured it
for sure.
out.
Good. Now, the other thing I loved about the show is like how amazing things were visually. And obviously some of that is just inherent with, the art of blowing glass. But, I also love seeing the supplies, the tools, going in and having all that glass available. Like, how was it to work in that space? Did you have everything you wanted? Like, how was it with supplies and having all the glass that you wanted or needed?
Yeah, I think a lot of it really worked out where, we didn't run out of glass out of the furnace or anything like that. There definitely were some struggles in the beginning of, there was limitations on how many torches we could have in the room, and so we had to share. Typically, you would have just your own setup right by your bench, so you don't have to worry about shuttling it around between two different people working because, timing is essential. And there was a lot of tools that were there or weren't there, and so that was something to adjust to. I'm sure you noticed that like a lot of people were using like newspapers to cradle the glass and manipulate it.
Yeah.
Typically, or maybe not typically, but like in most shops that I've been in, we have these wooden blocks. It's like these wooden ladles that are saturated with water that you roll the glass in. So there were just
Hmm.
little things like that, but we're all smart, so we all adapted and we figured it out together. I had every color that I wanted at my fingertips, so that was a real treat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I also want to ask, like, how long were you there for the competition? Like, was everybody there together in a hotel? Like, what are the logistics of, bringing all of these artists in and having everybody work together like that?
Yeah, it was interesting because when we first got there, or on our way there, we were told like you're not allowed to post on social media. You're not allowed to like let anybody know that you're going to Canada or whatever. And then you get there,
Yeah.
they confiscate your phone, computer, everything, and you're in quarantine for
Oh,
four
man.
days because they don't want you accidentally finding out like who your competitors are and researching about them, or
Okay.
because they know the
Yeah.
glass world is really small, so it wouldn't have been that hard to find out, especially through word of mouth and everybody's excitement fueling that conversation. Um, but so after the 4 days of being in quarantine, finally being able to like meet each other, it was just kind of a weird start because like that's not how you normally get together with other glass people. Usually it's a much more
Yeah.
casual setting. You just, everybody goes out for drinks afterwards or something, but like that wasn't there. And so I think it took a little while for all of us to kind of like warm up into the situation and just feel comfortable enough to open up. But eventually,
Hmm.
being on a film set, or I'm sure it's kind of like being on a movie set, there's just a lot of waiting in between things. So we spent many hours just sitting in a basement together waiting for the audio crew or whatever to get ready. And so, yeah, we definitely got to know each other.
Good, good. That's cool. Now, also I wanted to ask, like, how much time you spent there, and when they're filming all of these challenges, like, was it day after day after day, or was there some time in between the first and the second and the third challenge? Like, what was the schedule like? Was it really compacted, or was it spread out over, a few weeks?
It was compact, I mean, the clock is ticking, you got to think like the camera and the space and all of that's being rented.
Mm.
So the
Yep.
longer it takes, the more expensive it'll be. So there wasn't a single day off. Well, actually, there was one day off after recording the first episode because I think we all had to regroup.
Yeah.
But aside from that, there was no days off. So it was, from beginning to end was 2 months, and every episode's like about 3 days or so.
Okay.
And so, day one is meeting the guest judge, listen, like being announced what the challenge is going to be. Then we break for lunch. And then later that evening, then we shoot for real. We go into the studio and actually make the thing and meet our assistants for the first time. Day two is just like kind of looking back at everything that had happened the day before and doing interviews about all of that, kind of doing
Hmm.
reaction shots or what do you think the judge is going to say, all of that. And then day three is cold working, which is once your piece is cold enough to handle, then cutting, grinding, doing last minute adjustments to it before putting it in the gallery. And then at the end of that day, getting dressed up, doing like the gallery presentation, speaking about your piece in front of the
Right.
judges, and then somebody gets eliminated, and the cycle repeats.
Yeah. Okay. So now let me ask you this. On the show, you have 4 or 5 hours that you get for the project. Like, is that accurate to what you actually got? And how much of a time crunch is that? Like, did you feel rushed on everything that you needed to make?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, because you want to maximize what you can do in that time, but also you don't want to push the limits and
Hmm.
then not finish your piece either, because there was no leniency with that time.
Right.
It was very much just when they say go and then when they say stop. I don't think any of us were really testing that limit, because it's just when you're rushing glass, that's when glass breaks. You can't rush it,
Yeah.
even though, there was some rushing happening. Like, there's a limit. Like, you don't want to be running across the room. You don't want to, push on glass that's too cold just because you're eager. And, uh, yeah,
Hmm.
so it was a little stressful there, but I tried to keep my calm and stay at my own pace that I know that I'm comfortable at, so that, I wouldn't have to accidentally break my glass and start over.
Yeah, for sure. And then you mentioned just a little bit about this, but I wanted to ask you, I guess the atmosphere with the other competitors. Did you feel like it was basically supportive? Were people friendly, or did it fall more on the competitive side?
I think majority of us were not even competitive. We just saw
Hmm.
this golden opportunity to have this open love letter about glass, and so we just took that. I mean, art. I mean, it's kind of ironic for me to say, but art is not a competition. It's a
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
So, like, a situation with a bunch of creative, sensitive, expressive, emotional group of people when, yeah, we're put in these really strange constraints. But yeah, I think for that reason it brought us together, because it was a little bit of survival mode of like trying to
Hmm.
figure out how to advocate for what we want or need, and um, yeah, I think we all got along.
Okay, that's really cool. And then I also wanted to ask you, I guess, one question about what you created on the show. Like for me, like your Kusama piece, I thought, or Kusama inspired piece, I should say,
Hmm.
was really really cool. I love that one. But did you have a favorite that you put together, or one that you were really proud of over the course of the competition?
Oh, okay. I would say the Kusama piece just really hit a lot of points that I was really happy with.
Hmm.
I would have picked a different form, obviously. I don't personally care for a razor necessarily,
Right, right.
but I think I was just happy with the execution. But I would say my favorite piece, process wise, like making, was really fun. Was the exploding sushi one. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh
Yeah,
yes. Oh, I love
yeah,
that
that
one.
one was a lot of fun, and it's just like so like visually pleasing. It's like it's food, but it's sparkly, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, cool. I need to let you get out of here. So again, thank you for your time. But I always like to close with advice for teachers that listen to this podcast.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
blowing glass isn't something that you can teach in high school, or not that none that I know of anyway. But what do you think teachers can do to familiarize students with the medium? Maybe prepare them for doing it in the future. What can help them? I guess kids appreciate the art form of blowing glass.
So yeah, definitely check out a local glass studio. Maybe take a field trip. You could make an appointment with them and just take a tour. I've also hosted middle school and high school classes. Um, yeah, it's all possible. Just field trips and funding, maybe after school activities. There's often a lot of open house events at different studios. So, maybe even just like letting the students know that so that they can go with their parents. If there's anything that people are looking for to do on campus, like at the schools, there's always mosaics, so if there's already a school mural, you can add to that. Fused glass classes, which are super low key, so like even middle school can handle that. Flame working, which is a stationary torch and melting glass within that torch. It's smaller scale, so again, might be more, might be easier to kind of digest and also like, sell to parents. So
Yeah. No, that's cool. All right. Well, thank you for the advice. Appreciate it. And then just last thing before we go, can you let people know where they can find you on Instagram, your website, whatever else, if they're looking for more of your work?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So my website is momokoschafer.com. You can also find me on Instagram at GlassyMomo. You can also find me on Facebook. That's just Momoko Schafer. And then same thing with Patreon, Momoko Schafer. I'll be putting up like different documentaries about my journey as an artist, and then also probably making videos of Q&As and stuff like that. If you have any more questions, you can hit me up there.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. It's been awesome to talk to you, and good luck in the future.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you so much to Momo for coming on. We will link to her Instagram and her website in the show notes, so make sure you go give her a follow at GlassyMomo on Instagram, and make sure you check out her website. And if you haven't watched Blown Away, go do that this week. I hope this interview didn't spoil anything for you. I don't think it did. We tried to stay away from taking the conversation in that direction. If you have watched Blown Away already, go ahead and watch it again. Like, feel free to drop me an email and tell me what you think about the show, and most importantly, what you thought about the winner. Apparently pretty controversial between the final two, but from my perspective, the judges absolutely made the correct decision. But just curious to know what everybody else thought about that. I would love to hear differing opinions if you have them. And then finally, and probably most importantly, introduce Blown Away to someone outside the art world. And they're going to appreciate it. They're going to love it. We want more people appreciating art, talking about art, going to see art in real life. Momo wants more people seeing her work and buying her work. And honestly, if we can use this show to get more people into galleries, into hot shops like she suggested, hey, that is an amazing thing that we all know is going to be worthwhile. Art Ed Radio is produced by the Art of Education with audio engineering from Michael Crocker. And sometimes Brandon Crocker. So thank you for filling in this week, Brandon. Thank you again to Momo Schafer. It was an awesome conversation today. And then one last reminder, if you are looking for that discount for the Winter Art Ed Now conference, make sure you get back in your emails from the conference. That's still going on for like 2 more days if you want to get the discount for the winter conference that's coming up. So this is your last reminder. Go get that done in the next couple days. All right. Thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week.